Welcome back to the Tidarium Hair. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about G.I. Joe classified variants. These are the running change variants of the same exact number, so you track down the same exact figure with slight changes. We're going to talk about these slight changes. We're not talking about the obvious different number figures that are completely different, like the Pip Daddy Destro, Prophet Director, or the Snake Supreme Cobra Commander. Those will have their own number. Or the 3 different versions of Roadblock. Those are all numbered differently. Some of these variants are massive changes, and some are subtle differences. We'll get into talking about this coming up. So the first one on the list that really kind of got me by surprise, because I didn't even know this until I started looking into it, is Destro. Now, Destro came out, and he originally had a circle on his head, and then he no longer had a circle on his head. Seems like the first run was the one on the right, and it has a circle on his head instead of a smooth dome. A smooth chrome dome has a circle. Now, there's talks on why the one on the left is more of a smooth chrome dome, and they got rid of the circle, and they actually are saying that is because of the Prophet Director. The Prophet Director figure came out, and they had a slight change to the head for whatever reason, and then the next run of Destro used that same mold for the head. That's what people are saying, so I guess I'll just go with it. But this is proof right here. I had to go dig through. I actually picked an extra one up of this run for my son for Christmas, so actually I have one for the smooth head. Lucked out, he's going to get a circle on his head. Next up is the Regal Cobra Commander. Now, this one was a big issue because at first there was a lot of confusion about what color the Regal Cobra Commander was going to be. Was he going to be the standard color? Was the standard one going to look like the one on the left? Well, the one on the left is the Regal Cobra Commander, and it's more of a classic blue. The one on the right is the one we got at retail that is keeping all of Target's pegs nice and warm. So with that, the confusion came because one site put the wrong picture up for a Regal Cobra Commander, and it was the first site. So it's one of those things where Hasbro didn't get out in front of this. They didn't even say anything about this, so there was a massive amount of confusion. On top of that, people didn't know if they pre-ordered this one, which one they would get. Luckily, Hasbro Pulse got it right. They had the right picture, so that worked out for a lot of people. And as this goes for every single thing on this list except for one variant, they have the exact same packaging. So the packaging is exactly the same. You have the Regal Cobra Commander on the left, the regular one on the right, and packaging same, different figure. Let's move on to the next one. So next up we have the Beachhead Brown Eye Blue AI variants. So the thing about this is I think the blue eye is the most common and the brown eye is the hard one to find. And these variants become so subtle and like who really cares? But at the end of the day, I guess an eye color does make a difference. But if you look at the one on the right, it's more of a brown-eyed version, and the one on the left is more of the blue-eyed version. So, big difference, actually, once you notice this stuff, once you see this stuff, then you know what to look for when you're picking these figures up. But which one do you guys like? Which one do you have? And does this make you want to go check out your figure and see which variation you have? See, Beachhead himself was riddled with controversy for a lot of reasons. First of all, why are his weapons green? But the fact that he was really hard to find for a lot of people, the price on him on the secondary market went through the roof to like $140. And when these variants first came out, and you're like, I just ponied up $140 to get a Beachhead, and now there's a different one with different eye color that I want to go after. I know a lot of people like to collect variants and like to say they have the entire run and the entire line. So that was struggle back then. Nowadays, I'm not sure all these new ones, when they flooded the market with G.I. Joe June, what color are those eyes? And what color are the eyes on the ones at the bargain hunts? One thing that's fun about collecting any G.I. Joe line, whether it's the vintage or even the 25th anniversary or G.I. Joe Classified, is army building or troop building. And troop builders, army builders, well, the first one that came around, and it was very, very popular, was the Cobra Island. Yes, it sucked that you got a troop builder that was almost impossible to find at Target with a Target exclusive. And yeah, getting one was hard, let alone an army of these guys. But on top of that, they actually had a variant. I didn't know this for a while, that there was a variant, but it's a It's a collar variant. So on the left, you see the black collar, which I think is more common. And on the right, you get the blue collar. And actually, when you look at this, the blue collar looks kind of cool. It's kind of, in my opinion, adds a little bit more color differentiation to the figure. But still, both look fine. They're both nice looking figures. But at the end of the day, which one do you like the most? Or do you just get both? Do you have equal amounts? If you have 60 of these figures, do you have to have 30 blue collar and 30 black collar ones? I'm curious. And I think the mainline Cobra Infantry Trooper release, the one that's available everywhere that you can get right now on Amazon for the regular price, I don't think that had a color variation. I think it was the blue collar all the way around. But if you see a regular infantry with a black collar, I'd like to know about that. So next up, we're going to get into recolors of these figures. There's 3 major recolors that are out there, aside from, of course, the Regal Commander, which was a crazy nonsense thing going on. But looking at this here, we have Duke. Now, on the left is the recolor, and on the right is the original. So with the original, one of the big things about it was that the lower legs, we had these shin guards and knee pads, and they were kind of a goldish color to it, and a lot of people did not like that. So instead of removing the shin guards, and I mean, I could see them needing the knee pad because it's built in, but removing the shin guards, they just painted the shin guards and the knee pads, and so they made those a different color to sort of match the pants. I guess that's one way to go. That's one thing to do, but still, it's a little odd to me that they left the shin guards on there. But still, looking at it side by side, I think the original Duke was a fine looking figure. But yeah, the shin guards were a little off-putting, but it's not the end of the world. A little bit of upgraded armor. But the fact that his classic shirt looks really good, and of course the colors work pretty good, and the head sculpt, he just looks like a Joe, like a really tough soldier and all that kind of stuff. His guns still kind of have that Nerf gun vibe to them, but still have a bit of a real world look to him. Overall, I thought Duke was one of the most solid releases out of the gate, and I was excited to get him, and I kind of like the recolor. This is the one where the recolor version is the harder one to find because I guess they put it out in smaller quantities. I'm guessing if they put another Duke out, they're either going to put the Duke out with this version of the recolor that's on the left, or they're going to completely redo the lower legs, which would be nice. Next up, we have Roadblock and his recolor variation, which is floating around out there. You can still find the recolored one. On the left is the recolor. On the right is the original release. And as you can see, the original release had a more vibrant green on his vest, and he had a lot of gold on his one knee pad and his 2 shin guards. Now, he still has the one knee pad, still has both of his shin guards on the new model, so it's just repainted. Now, the entire color of the pants are different. A darker green on the vest on the new recolor, and he has a whole new set of guns. The original set of guns were a different color than this. This is more of a real-world coloring of his guns instead of, was it gold or something with the original one? So all around, there's a lot of differences. If you also look on the strap on the new one, close to his shoulder, it's normal color strap, and on the old one, it has some gold flair to it and bling to it. So looking at all around, they did change quite a few things on this guy, and it just depends. Some people actually are in on the original look the most. Some of the people like the original look of this guy even more because it is a little bit different and it does kind of stand out. But I just think the fact that this technically makes 4 versions of Roadblock, because there's 3 officially numbered versions. If you include the Cobra Island one, you include the Amazon exclusive, and 2 with the same number, and he is number 1. So getting into the next recolor, we have the Scarlet recolor. Now, this one is the one that's floating around out there a lot. So on this picture here, the right one is the recolor, the left one is the original release. And I've recently seen some people doing their customs, and I think that the custom painted jobs where the entire figure is the correct color, it works so much better with the exact same mold. In fact, I've seen people not change a thing about this, just paint it, and it looks amazing. Hasbro could put this out with the correct color all around, top to bottom, and make this figure look super classic, super amazing, even with this shoulder pad thing going on the side there. Even with that added in, it could still look super retro, super classic, and hit the point. But with this, it's still strange color breakups all over both of these. So that kind of surprised me. why is there still like this red stripe paint app and all this kind of stuff going on when they could have just molded the whole thing in the same color and made it happen? But they didn't. Maybe it's because they don't think it would sell if it was too retro. Who knows? But the more retro, the more sells. I mean, that's the way it's going to go. They also changed the hair color. They changed the shade of the face. And then, of course, instead of having like the blue, I don't know what you would call the blue clothing for the top part underneath the armor is now a black. And then as you get down below, you see all the color variations. I think that a lot of people are starting to realize that we'll never see the one on the left produced again. And that one is getting bought up left and right and harder to find on the secondary market, to where this time next year it'll be almost impossible to find that one on the secondary market. So our next variant is Snake Eyes. And I set out looking for examples of Snake Eyes that has his knife in his sheath. So he's got a little side holster sheath there for his knife. A lot of people had trouble putting their knife in. In fact, I actually had to take a small little something to jab in there to force it to have enough room for my knife to fit in. So how did Hasbro respond to all the people complaining about their sheath being messed up? Well, the go for it changes. They just packed it with the knife in there saying, hey, look, it fits fine. Don't worry about it. That's basically exactly what happened with that situation. So with that, you see a packaging variation. It's the only packaging variation on this list, and it's still the same number. Everything's the same. It's the little insert tray and where they place that knife that makes a big difference. But at the same time, some people are pointing out, they say that the head has a paint app missing that the original did. Little red paint app that's at the top right above the visor is no longer existent on the new model. So I don't know, because I really didn't go after this variation. To me, it was kind of a silly variation. What a waste of time to go after, in my opinion, but not everybody thinks like that. Next up, there's a variation. I guess just because it exists, we have to talk about it, but there is a shiny plate on Firefly versus a matte plate. What we're talking about is the chest. In the center of the chest, right above is something on his abdomen area there, but there's a little area, almost like a triangle area, that is shiny. And pretty much I think the whole chest plate is shiny, and then one of them's a matte finish. So it's not really a big deal in my opinion, but it does look different. I mean, it's a variation. Could be a production error, a production flaw, or just that day's batch came out that way. Who knows? But at the end of the day, if you chase down variants, you want shiny and not shiny, I guess you can go after them. So what do you think about this list of variants? Do you have cash to burn on variants out there? Because if so, there they are. I'm curious though, did I miss any? Are there any G.I. Joe Classified variants that I did not talk about? Any that I do not know about? Put them in the comments below so I can keep an updated list and maybe make another one of these videos in 6 months or a year. Because you know, when it's G.I. Joe, there's always going to be more variants out there. Like and subscribe. Titanium Hanger out.